We're here today with Reza Manouchehri of MetroStar's Systems. Ali, tremendously excited to have you here.
Good to be here, Ellis.
Great. So I think a great place to start for those who maybe have been to your website or heard about the company but don't know it very well, given all the tremendous growth that you've had and just the exciting things that have been going on, if you could baseline for us where MetroStar's Systems is today.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the viewers, we're a management consulting firm that's focused on consulting and transformation in the government space. So close to about 95% of our customer base across the civilian and homeland and defense and intel is public sector with a very small group of commercial clients that still it's business to government. So still the end customer is the government buyer that we focus on. Approximately 320 employees, growing at a pace of 4 net new employees per week to meet the demands of growth that we are humbly experiencing today.
That's incredible. That's great. Could you tell us a little bit about the capability sets that you focus on?
Yeah, sure. So we organize our capabilities because there's so much technology out there, but we group them into 3 buckets in terms of digital, cyber, and enterprise IT. Probably the most diverse of the portfolio is the digital capabilities for the firm, which is really focused on human-centered design, and really at a baseline of even the founding of the company was a lot of, in terms of the design thinking and user experience that we really built capabilities on top of. So how do you differentiate yourself from one IT company to another IT company? For us, we focused over 2 decades ago to be focused on design and user experience. That is one key area within our digital that now we are really investing into the artificial intelligence and machine learning in terms of where the market is going to be in the future. On the enterprise IT side, it's a lot of cloud transformation, cloud adoption, but also on the execution of actually not just doing the strategy, but doing the transformation for the customers as well. And really on the cyber side, it's really complementary across digital and enterprise IT in terms of the areas that are, again, focused on, when you look at cybersecurity, you have to think about that from an artificial intelligence standpoint, from an ethical standpoint to a security standpoint of how you actually deliver these capabilities that you want output at a human level, quality level that you would call artificial intelligence that you can trust. So security becomes a really important piece of that for us.
That's really helpful, thank you. So I have a question from a finance guy to a technology guy, but it seems to me that technology differentiated businesses, such as MetroStar, one of the critical elements of maintaining your edge and growing the business is your ability to see around the corner, so to speak, to anticipate what's coming, even if your customer doesn't yet anticipate what's coming. How do you, as CEO, garner your resources of MetroStar, the time, the energy of your incredibly talented employee base, and think about, okay, how do we look around the corner and anticipate what's coming next so we're prepared to deliver for our customer?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do a lot of listening, right? You have to be intimately involved in what your customers want and need and be able to still balance out from an operational tactical level in terms of, having enough time to think about strategy in the future. So, we always remind ourselves as the management team of a famous Wayne Gretzky quote, in terms of never go to where the puck has been, go to where the puck will be. And I think that's very relevant in terms of the technology field today that's transforming at greater speeds. I mean, take COVID-19 as an example. You could see how fast transformation that might have taken you 3 years to do, now you have to do it in months. Months to weeks, weeks to days. And if you have the right type of customer base that really need that type of transformation, it becomes really important that your team, you create forums and environments that you're constantly thinking about your strategy. I think another thing that we do unique is, our business plan is a 2-year rolling plan. We don't like to think about what's going to happen in 3 to 4 to 5 years. We want to focus in the next 24 months in terms of where the plan is and be able to iterate in a much more agile manner in terms of the type of investments and changes that we need to meet to be able to be ready to respond in a situation like the pandemic.
I want to take a second and talk about something that's a real challenge for government contractors. The ability to emerge from the set-aside small business 8A environment to competing and winning in the full and open environment. And I'm not disclosing anything confidential because it's been in the news. MetroStar won a really highly prized, coveted slot, full and open prime slot on the iTest 5 vehicle, multi-billion-dollar award, 10 years, in an environment where it's really the world's becoming a have and have-nots between those who are on the vehicles and those who don't have access to those vehicles. I know that so many of our viewers who may be entrepreneurs that are earlier in their growth stage relative to MetroStar are thinking about and wrestling with, how do I get to the point where I can win in the full and open environment? Can you give some insights into how you thought about that and continue to think about competing and winning in the full and open environment?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have a philosophy, and it's kind of part of our brand ethos is in terms of thinking big, but also being able to act big at the same time. So I think one advice I would give is it's never, you know, too early. So take shots, right? Take calculated shots because they could be very expensive. It could set you back. But I think our process started close to probably 4 years before we started graduating through the various social economic disadvantages that we had. And we took calculated shots. You know, I don't want to lie, but we did take a shot at a couple of bluebirds out there as well. And you learn from those, right? And it's almost like a Sun Tzu kind of mindset, right? It's okay to lose a few of the little battles, but ultimately you want to win the war. So you take shots. You even through failure and losses, there's lessons learned of, you know, process, people, and how you would have approached it, and most importantly, the learning aspect of it. And then how you could kind of bring the team back together to really focus on that and keep that as a focal point as you're moving year after year in terms of how you look at your pipeline. Is your pipeline, how much of the total pipeline is set aside for full and open versus all the other vehicles that you really feel comfortable? And, you know, I think the job of a CEO is to make their team feel uncomfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And you have to constantly be able to do it in a thoughtful kind of way where you're not burning out your team. But, you know, as soon as you win a couple of those full and opens like we have in the last, you know, 12 months, you can imagine what the confidence level looks like right now. And, you know, there's a couple other ones that we won. And I think what's really exciting about this fiscal year for us, of the total dollars we've won in total, most of it has been full and open versus small business. So that's a huge credit to the amazing, talented team that we have. Yeah,
it's sometimes referred as getting over the valley of death because it can be very, very challenging. But I love the way you phrase that. Question for you: did you know, as you were putting together the team and the infrastructure, you talked about managing your pipeline. Were there certain investments you felt like you had to make along the way through trial and error?
Yeah, and you know, some of the investments are continue investing in your people that you do already have, right? There's some difficult challenges and difficult decisions that you have to make in terms of, you know, who do you give this one slot to? You know, a funny story that I kind of look at is when I watched The Last Dance for Michael Jordan, and you kind of look at the championship that won the first 3 rings versus the next 3 rings. Some similar faces, but a lot of different faces of how the team was assembled. And I think as you're going through that journey, those are some of the things you have to always constantly look at is continue making investment in your current team, but then kind of looking at the areas where you really need to, you can't afford to do those lessons learned on your own. So you have to bring outside thinking, outside wisdom to kind of sprinkle within the team. And the most probably challenging part of a company our size, or maybe any company, is really the cultural fit. So how do you really hire carefully to make sure that it's a right cultural fit for the organization, that they can mesh really fast and be able to execute even faster?
Do you have a hard time finding the capabilities you need? Do you find it easier to hire or to build from within? Because you have a very credentialed employee base, and you were talking about all the people you've been onboarding. Just curious about some of those challenges and how you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, the executive team has a good amount of experience working together. So I think when you look at the executives across the board, there's some new faces in the organization, but there's individuals that have worked together for over a decade. So I think it's a good balance to have where you're able to retain top executives for over a decade. and grow, because MetroStar is not the same company it was from 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But then you're able to now, in a thoughtful manner, kind of integrate the right type of individuals that can bring that new way of thinking, whether it's, hey, we need a different way of looking at growth. We need a different way of looking at a pipeline. There's a different way we need to think about delivery and operations and how we look at our profit and loss as an organization. So we do that, and I think if you could strike 500, you'd be doing really well.
Yeah. And the ability to be, your organization is agile, we deliver for your customer is agile, but also being agile as an executive team to continue to make the pivots you need to grow.
Absolutely.
So what's next for MetroStar? What's your vision?
Oh, wow. That's a big one,
Yeah.
Alice. I think we have a great plan. We've always had a couple big targets that we wanted to hit as an organization of being completely bootstrapped, right? I think that's a key differentiator with us is, you talk about some of the full and open wins that we've had. They've been against publicly traded companies or private equity backed companies,
Yeah.
right? So we take pride in that we're able to really focus and allow ourselves to focus on the type of customers we want to acquire, the type of culture we want to build, and we're still really passionate about it, because I only feel like we've only accomplished 50% of what we've set out to do. So we got some amazing growth goals to really expand our defense and intelligence business. Our civilian and homeland business is kicking. They're doing amazing right now. But I think the future for us is really to diversify and be able to have two engines for the spaceship that we have right now, to be able to, in a more predictable manner, to kind of grow our business across civilian and defense.
Ali, thank you for coming in, taking the time to speak with us, to tell us more about MetroStar, particularly in an environment like COVID, where it's really hard to get out and see each other as much. It's quite frankly just nice to be here with you. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank you for joining us for this conversation. We hope it's been helpful to you.